So, communications courses. Do you remember sender, message, channel, receiver? Do you remember that dynamic?
Vaguely.
Okay, so the sender is the person.
I went to class, though.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, okay.
Kind of had to.
You were there.
Nature.
You were there that day.
Yeah, I was telling you.
Sender is who's delivering the message. Message, of course, is what the message is. The channel is how does one disseminate the message, and the receiver. And if you get all those things right, you have effective communication. If you know who's sending the message, what the message is, what channel you disseminate the message, and the person you're hoping receives the message gets the message. There was a message sent Saturday. Sender, message, channel, receiver. I am going to be intrigued to see who people think the intended receiver of the message was. It was one of our coaches. We will get to that today at 11:05. In the meantime, we sit here on a Monday following the Combine wondering what your number one conclusion from the Combine is. 248-539-9797. What do you got? NFL. It's a big weekend for the draft nerds out there and the Lions fans. And the Lions take in a lot. What probably was most important is what we couldn't see, and that is those 20-minute meetings that the Lions have with players where they are behind closed doors. Those things are indeed recorded and sometimes post-draft. The Lions have released some of that stuff, which is can be really, really cool and fun to look back on. But there's what's made available to the public. Hey, feel free to draw your conclusions. What do you got? Mondays also mean Champ and Chump, brought to you by Sarah Chevrolet Sterling Heights. Get your Champ and Chump votes in. Champ and Chump of the weekend. Who should be singled out and who should be called out. And we will get to those coming up today and have ours at 10:35. It's Karsch and Anderson and Scott. What is your draft combine conclusion?
I think that if you're looking for an offensive lineman, you can wait to the second round. I think there's going to be a run on them, but I think that it's such a deep class, whether it's the tackle or the guard. If you want to throw center in the mix, I guess you can, but I'm looking more at the tackle and guard group. There are so many individuals that when they get measured up, just from the measuring standpoint, you're like, oh my God. Guys that are 6'5" or taller, guys that had like 9.5-inch hands or bigger, guys that have the arm length of 33 or longer. These are the things that the scouts look at, right? These are things that start to make up. You look at with RAS scores, it's you get the measurables, and then you get the testing stuff that all works in there. But these offensive linemen are as big as I can ever remember. And I mean, there's a ton of guys that are like 6'6" and bigger that play both guard and tackle. I think you're going to get somebody in the second round and be just fine with it.
I can't say that you are wrong in terms of this draft strength. It also builds the case for something that probably gets said every year about what a great year this is to trade back and get more draft capital. I feel like that is often the number one conclusion by the Lion. When we talk about the Lions and the draft, many of our discussions regarding the draft, we just eliminate the trade back possibility until there is some trade back that we know about. Because if you could trade back and get a third round pick and go back 5 spots and get the same player, that's awesome.
Yeah,
predicting those possibilities is virtually impossible. But when something is reported that could be out there, then we feast into those rumors. That doesn't do any harm.
Let me say this before anybody starts to kill me online about this or on Twitch or YouTube. I'm just starting the evaluation by looking at the measurables. This has nothing to do with the actual tape, which is the number one factor.
Right.
Okay, of course, can the guy play is what matters most. But some of these other things lead you down that path. Like, okay, you see these monster sizes. Well, okay, now I need to compare. How does Caden Proctor look in the SEC versus Monroe Freeling from Georgia? 2 guys, massive individuals that are both highly thought of. Is there any real discerning difference between the two? Just looking at their measurables, then looking at the tape. And then, of course, the next thing that you evaluate is how do they interview? Do they fit into the team or not? And we'll never know half of this stuff, right? Or way more than half of this stuff. But I feel like there's enough of these players that are in the bucket of really good offensive linemen that you can afford to trade back, get extra draft capital, and get the guy that you want.
Okay, so I don't know that this guy's going to be on the board. The first two post-combine mock drafts I looked at, one of them had him now going 6. The other one had him going 17 to the Detroit Lions. But my one conclusion after the combine is that if he is on the board, the Detroit Lions at 17 will select Georgia tackle Monroe Freeling.
Oh.
And he is huge. He's athletic. He put up a massive RAS score and really turned heads with his workout over the weekend. And I think that there are certain things that matter more to the Lions than other teams, and I think this RAS score is one of them, and he had one of the best offensive tackle workouts. It's a need. They've talked about it publicly. I think he can basically spend a redshirt year, and then coupling that with the free agent center, and the pool of centers has grown in the last week. I'd rather have the veteran in the middle of the offensive line and the waiting replacement at the edge. And I think a lot of other positions could be had. And you're right, it is a deep draft for offensive linemen. I think Freeling is too good to pass. If he's there at 17, they take him.
I ain't mad at it.
And what you brought up also probably applies. If he's gone, they could maybe go another direction. But I think Freeling checks the boxes for them. Now, I'm not sure about the interview stuff and how it went with them, and I haven't heard anything. But what we got right now and what's available information, I think he's the pick at 17. I don't think they'll be able to resist a tackle that's that big and that athletic.
Well, I think once we got out of this combine, because there were a number of players that when you watch it, you're like, wow, they really improved their stock. And then there's still the pro days. And, of course, you have no idea what goes on in the interview process. But, just based on the underwear Olympics and knowing the pedigree of schools that they came from and how they, what limited plays that you saw them on film, what you yourself watched in games you remember and all that, I think there's a lot of really good players. And this could end up pushing somebody that we thought was untouchable in the top 10 that absolutely becomes available to them at 17 or, on the precipice of becoming available. That do you really want to make the trade to move up a couple spots and get the guy, or are you completely comfortable with even trading back? And I think that everything is going in the Lions' favor here because I think there's so many players that kind of fit that description. It's not just the offensive line group. I mean, the safety group, there are a number of safeties that really kind of turned heads. And because of some of the ridiculous times we saw in the 40 by a bunch of wide receivers, and size, like guys are 6'4", running 4.3 40s, you wonder how many of those, because receivers, once one goes, they all go. They get that run. And if that run hits at the right time, does that push somebody back to your position?
248-539-9797. Let's go to Matt. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Matt.
Hey, what's up? Good morning. Champ and Chump. Chump, Red Wings, because that game was horrible. Then Champ will be the Pistons. But I do have another champ. Now, I don't know if you guys actually watched this, but the Red Bull, X Games, I was watching the biking event, and these dudes are going through, the forest at, over 60, 70 miles an hour on a bike, and trees around. It's crazy that no one got injured. But it was amazing. And then the Red Wings, they're playing in Nashville today, which is where I'm at. So I'm going to go to the Predators game at 1 o'clock.
That's cool.
Yeah. The 2 o'clock start, kind of a weird deal, but it's done for a European audience. They wanted to put a game on prime time in Europe, which they could do all the time on a Saturday or Sunday, but they chose a Monday. So we've got a 2 o'clock Red Wing game today.
Yeah, have you guys? I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if you guys watch the Red Bull X Games, but they're jumping off homemade ramps, going through the forest, they're so close to the trees. It was crazy that no one got injured. The amount of skill that is required for that.
Yeah, well, as a person that likes to get out and bike trails, that kind of stuff always does amaze me. And what I'm doing there at that DTE trail out in Chelsea, or Torn Shirt, the torn shirt trail. What I'm doing there doesn't compare to what these cats are doing. They're insane and incredibly skilled.
Good for that.
248-539-97. You don't care, huh?
No, I just don't. I don't care about the death-defying stuff that gets all the attention. And when somebody does get hurt, and everybody's like, "Oh my God!" Who knew? Who knew if you're going 60, 70 miles an hour down a trail? And who knew?
Well, it's a race, right? I mean, people.
Okay, good for them.
248-539-9797. Feedback coming in. My champ, Michigan State basketball for 2 big wins at Purdue and at Indiana. Chump, Tarek Skubal for getting lit up in 3 innings of work yesterday.
Well, I would say this: when it comes to pitchers in spring training, what you don't know is what they're working on. Are they just trying to get up to speed? Are they just getting the arm ready to go? Trying this, trying that. Yeah. Hey, you know what? I need to work on my splitter here or my slider. Mm-hmm. I don't get too bent out of shape about pitchers in the first couple weeks of spring training. Maybe towards the last couple weeks is when I'll pay attention to what the pitchers are doing. And really, this whole first 10 days of spring training, what does it really mean anyway?
Brian A. Ann Arbor, MSU basketball, my champ, taking out the state of Indiana. Chumps the Wings, losing yet again to the Canes.
Well, they did play the backup goaltender, and they did change up the lines, and with mixed results. They had opportunities, they just couldn't bury them. And had they were able to score on 1 or 2 of those, really would have made the game interesting. And then you had a couple goals that Carolina scored. You're like, really? That was unfortunate.
Champ Michigan basketball, huge win in Champaign to become outright Big Ten champs. Chump LJ Kaysen's ACL. That's a huge loss for this team. That's from Jamie.
How big of a loss is it?
It's big. It's a deep team, but and I could see them making a run without LJ Kaysen. He was coming into his own. He was a huge asset. I think back to 1989 with that game at Northwestern where the Wolverines' third guard, Kirk Taylor, tore his ACL, and it meant more minutes for Demetrius Caleb, who turned out to be a useful player when March rolled around. I don't know that they've got that next guard, their next Caleb, on this roster to pick up more minutes. Winters Grady hasn't played a whole ton, but maybe it is him. Maybe it means they move Yaks to give him some minutes at the 2. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
On the shoulders of Cadeau?
Yeah, and Trey McKinney will get a ton of minutes. It's a loss. There's no doubt about it. Can they overcome it? Sure, but their job didn't get easier. It got tougher with that loss. And so it is unfortunate for LJ, who was really, really playing well. And the skill set that he brought was a guard who could get into the lane and finish. 248-539-9797. Combine conclusions, champ and chump votes. We will get to those today at 10:35 on 97.1.